ADAAAAAA. What's going on, everybody? Jean Paul here from Rope Break, flying solo. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the 5th episode of AEW Dynamite. And tonight, the big main event was the Tag Team Tournament Finals to crown the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions. Were we happy with the winners, or were we not? Let's find out. Well, the show started off with Tony Schiavone. He gets to the airport to meet Cody and Dustin, and they're all just getting ready, getting prepared for the contract signing tonight for the championship match at Full Gear. And I really like this open, gave it a nice sense of importance to this main event, for the title. And it was just, it just kind of gave an old school feel. In WWE, you really don't get that sense of how important a title match is, especially for the heavyweight championship of your promotion. But this, it really gave it like that real feel, like the old school, feel from especially from WCW, which I'll get into later. They did something like that too, which I really liked. And then from there, it goes into a recap of last week at the end of the show. John Moxley and Pac, and they went to the time limit draw. And then after the match, Kenny Omega came out to save Moxley, because Pac had the chair around his neck, and it didn't look like it was going to end well. This was all shown, I believe, on their Instagram, or they might have uploaded something to YouTube, but this wasn't on television. At least it wasn't for the first broadcast. I think when they re-showed it on Friday, they showed this extended, but I don't think it was on the original broadcast on Wednesday last week. So Kenny came out to make the save, and then after the match was over, Moxley was pissed. He goes to the back, he's throwing chairs, he's swearing, he's all pissed that they didn't give more time, that there should have been a winner in this match. He storms into Tony Khan's office, and he's mad that, or he finds out that his match with Kenny is a lights out unsanctioned match, because they don't want to be responsible for what these guys are going to do to each other. And that really pisses Moxley off. So he goes in there and he's yelling at Tony Khan, saying, "You just don't want me to have a win over your boy. And now, if this is how it's going to be, you're going to be responsible for what I do to him." Which I really like that that's his attitude, because it's a realistic thing. I thought the same thing when they said tonight, it's a unsanctioned lights out match, because I think Moxley needs to win, and that's who they're going to book to win. But with it being unsanctioned, if he beats Kenny, it essentially doesn't count. But AEW, I noticed, is kind of funny with what counts and what doesn't, because they always say that the matches on AEW Dark don't count towards your win-loss record. But they also bring it up on the show to say, oh, this person got a win over so-and-so on AEW Dark. So they still acknowledge it. So it's kind of like a weird what counts, what doesn't count. But I think if they go through with this stipulation, then it is kind of a cop-out to get Kenny to have his win-loss record, or if they would have Kenny win, to have John Moxley's win-loss record not suffer. But I would almost be happy to see Kenny come out and say he's going to put it on the line, and he maybe talks Tony Khan into sanctioning the match so it counts. But I don't think they're going to change it. I think they're just going to have it be the way it is. And then after that, we went into the opening match. Hangman Adam Page versus Sammy Guevara. Pretty good opening match. Hangman got a really good crowd reaction. The crowd was on it tonight. They were, I don't know if they were just a good crowd excited to be there because the shows have been so great so far, or if they're just a really smart crowd. And I mean that in a good way, actually, not a bad way, because they cheered the faces, they booed the heels. It wasn't like, oh, I like this guy, so I'm going to cheer him. Like, they reacted the way they were supposed to react. And they were loud for everybody. The boos were loud, the cheers were loud, everything was good. The crowd was really on it tonight, whether that's because it was Halloween or, Halloween Eve. But like I said, the crowd was really on it, and they were on it from this match too. Page came out, and Guevara kind of took the early lead in this match. And then Hangman knocks him to the outside, and there was a brutal spot where Hangman's on the apron and Guevara knocks him down, and he hits his back and then falls and slams into his neck. And I don't think it was as bad as, the cell job, but it looked really gruesome. And like I said, Hangman Page, he sold that real well. And then they fight back into the ring. Hangman goes for a buckshot lariat. Guevara kind of backs up from that, like, no, you're not hitting me with that, at least not yet, because that's how the match finished. Hangman hit the buckshot lariat, 1, 2, 3. Then after the match, he says how things have been going good for him, but he challenged Pac to a match at Full Gear, so he said, this is, he's going to knock Pac's head off at Full Gear, and so that was a really good, promo. It was short, it was sweet. He got the point across, and like I said, the crowd was behind him. I think they pushed him so much because they wanted the crowd to know that this guy's going to be the main event guy, just not right now. That he's their future. So it's like a slow build with him, which I like. Because you don't want to see him, he lost to Jericho to be the first champion. You don't want to see him back in that number one contender role right away. You want to see other guys kind of get a shot and, keep it fair and make the stories make sense and consistent. So I like his kind of slow build right now. The thing with Sammy looks great in every match he's been in. The first match on AEW Dynamite against Kip Sabian, he looked good in everything, especially since joining the Inner Circle. But now his single record is 0-3. So I think next time we see him, he's got to get a win, kind of just establish himself in the Inner Circle, because Jake Hager's been shown off as a monster. Proud and Powerful has been shown off good. They were in a squash match, and everything else that they did tonight, Jericho, speaks for itself. So he's kind of like the weakest link in this, but he always looks good. He never gets squashed, but he's just also never won. So that would be something I'd like to see him, maybe even just on AEW Dark, get a pretty concisive victory. So then after that, you had Shana versus Hikaru Shida, which this was the first time we saw, I think, Shana. This is the first time we saw her. I was actually looking her up during this match to kind of know a little bit more about her, because I've never heard of her until tonight. And she's from Portugal, apparently, and her gimmick, a lot of her gear, and like the font for her logo and her name and stuff is Dragon Ball Z inspired, which is pretty cool. So, like I said, I never knew anything from her. I didn't know if she was good or not. And the match kind of started out a little slow, but I think, maybe just feeling each other out, maybe language barrier or something going on. But, I mean, these women, it was a great match. It was probably one of the best matches on the show, to be honest. And you didn't think that going in, but Hikaru Shida, I was a fan of hers since I first saw her, I believe, at All Out. And I actually thought she would have been kind of in the spot that Riho's in to try to get the Joshis over. But I think with Riho having the relation, the training under Kenny Omega and them being, friends and his mixed gender tag partner. So I think that had maybe a little bit to do with it. I don't want to go into conspiracy theories, but I think that might have been something. So that's why Hikaru Shida is kind of in this, just like the mid card, building her resume, building her way up in the women's division. But the two of these women, they almost went the 20-minute time limit, I believe. And like I said, it was just a good match, back and forth. There was a spot where Hikaru Shida set up a chair, and you thought she was gonna, maybe slam Shayna into the chair, and I believe she ran off it and hit her with an elbow. There's a lot of strong elbows in this match. Like I said, they were stiff. I mean, these women were really hitting each other. It was a really great match. And then the end, that was, I don't know if this was botched or what, but I mean, it made Shayna look stronger. So, if it was a botch, she looks better for it. Shida hit an elbow and a Falcon's Arrow, and it really didn't look like she kicked out, but I mean, the camera angles, I think, were the camera, like the shots and stuff from the production truck, I think were the best in this episode, but they're still not perfect, so it was a little hard to tell, but it looked like a pin from what we saw. But the ref said no, she kicked out, and then she hit another elbow, forearm, for the victory. So She gets the win, and it was a good win for her. I'd like to see her move up in this women's division, maybe challenge Riho. I don't know if there's any past matches or a rivalry or anything between them, but it's definitely good to get a lot of these women wins and then maybe figure out something for a number one contender, because I don't think there's even a match announced for Full Gear for Riho. So that would be interesting to see. And then next is a segment where, when it first was, I liked it. And then looking back at the end of the show, which I'll recap after I go through everything, I might have changed this segment up a little bit. Out come the Rock and Roll Express, and they were going to introduce the AEW Tag Team Championships. And I thought this was going to be at the end of the show when there's the winner. Then the Rock and Roll Express will come out, hold up the belts, kind of like Bret Hart did, and then hand them to the tag team who wins. But they came out and they had the titles and they were showing them off. And they said, oh, we fought, so many matches here in this building for tag team championships. And then, they're just reminiscing. And then out comes Santana and Ortiz. They jump them. They start attacking these guys. They knock, which one was it? I think they took Ricky Morton. They power bombed him through the stage. And I mean, these guys are 60-something years old, so I know they still wrestle, but I mean, it was a good spot. Like I said at the time, I was like, oh man, this is getting some monster heat. Like, if you didn't think, these guys were heel or you weren't booing them, you're definitely doing it now. But like I said, I'll go over it at the end. We don't need to get into that now. So like I said, when I watched it live, it was a great spot. It definitely got, heat on these guys. And, they showed off the tag team belts. And it's great to see the Rock and Roll Express out there. And then we get to the segment. Yeah, the segment I mentioned earlier with when Tony Schiavone was with Dustin and Cody. And then they get into the limo in the beginning. Then it's just Schiavone and Cody, and they're on their way to the arena, and Schiavone's kind of going over things, reminiscing about Dusty and, all this other stuff. And it reminded me of the old WCW pay-per-views where, I forget which one in general, or which one specifically, but it was Gene Okerlund and Ric Flair are in the back, and they're driving, and he's going over, like, his match with Vader. And it's like, if Vader, this could be your last match, Vader's so tough, and they're going over everything, and it's making it really, like, it's somber, but it's really serious. It's like a, do or die situation in this match. And this wasn't to that severity, but it gave me that feel, that really old school WCW feel, and I really liked it. Like I said, it just made everything feel legit, made everything feel like this is important, that it really means something. And then Cody also, he's really turning babyface. When the company first started, I mean, he was babyface because, he's helping produce the show, and he pretty much formed, started All Elite Wrestling and all this other stuff. It was his vision, so we had him to thank. But he was always, I felt, played a better heel, but he's definitely in the face role in this feud, and he talks about his mom and just his family and all this stuff, and it's really like tugs on your heartstrings and really makes you pull for Cody. But at the same breath, I don't know if we want to see him as the champion, if we want to see Jericho lose, because Jericho's so great. But this promo was really hoping to get Cody over as well. And then I don't know if you follow AEW on social media, but they had a promotion that said Rick and Morty is All Elite. So they had a partnership with Rick and Morty, and they said they'd be making an appearance at this Halloween episode. So then this was kind of like the Halloween gimmick match. And there was a mixed bag on this. A lot of people hated it because they hate this stuff in WWE. A lot of people said they had fun with it. I personally had fun with it because they did it correctly. This is how you need to do a holiday gimmick match. The guys came out dressed up. You had the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. which one was which here. I forget who was dressed up as who. I know Orange Cassidy. Two of them were dressed as Rick, and one of them was dressed as Morty. But they came out and they were dressed up, and QT Marshall and John Silver and Alex Reynolds, they weren't dressed up, but the best friends and Orange Cassidy were. So they come out, and the only part that was like kind of gimmicky and fun was just their outfits. They came out there, they still wrestled. They weren't beating each other over the head with jack-o'-lanterns and, giant Twix bars and candy and stuff. It wasn't like WWE when they do the Christmas ones and there's the candy cane, or like the street fight on 34th Street or whatever it is. There was no real, it was just they were dressed up, and it was a short match. It was a fun match. They hugged while they were dressed up. They knocked I believe they knocked Morty's wig off. Like I said, I forget who was dressed up as who, but they knocked his wig off, and then he kicked the wig out of the ring, and I think they booed him. Like I said, the crowd was really receptive, and they really appreciated everything that went on. And Orange Cassidy did his spot where he does his light little kicks to the side of their legs, and then his super kick, you want to call it, whatever. So the crowd really popped for that. They thought it was funny. And like I said, if you use him in this role, because obviously you're not going to put him, Orange Cassidy, like this in a role against Jericho or Kenny, somebody serious. This match was, the best friends, they're serious, they can wrestle, but they also are lighthearted and goofy. Orange Cassidy kind of fits that role. And you're putting them against, job guys, essentially, in QT Marshall, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds. For now, they're job guys. So this was the right match with the right people, and everything was just right to do. If you're going to do a holiday kind of gimmicky match, this was definitely the right match to do it. So I didn't have any problems with it personally. And like I said, the best friends won here. There's no real storyline or anything to go into the match. I just wanted to give my opinion on the whole. Some people hated it, some people liked it. I didn't think it was bad. Now, if this was a 20-minute match and it was dragged on and they were, like I said, throwing pumpkin guts at each other and smashing their faces into whipped cream pumpkin pies, then that gets a little old and boring, and we don't need to see that stuff. Then AEW champion Chris Jericho comes out to the stage, and it's time for the contract signing. And his suit, I must say, his suit jacket was amazing. He had this purple with all these pumpkins on it. He looked real funny. He tried to look as cool as he could, and I mean, he was rocking that jacket for sure. But it was just great to see. He had a little, even though he's a heel, he had a little bit of Halloween spirit in him. So he comes out, and he, he's talking to the crowd a little bit, and like I said, they were booing him. Even though all the crowds up until then have been "Thank you, Jericho," and they've been eating everything up, he said this crowd was real. They booed the heels. They loved Jericho clearly, but they were gonna boo him. So Cody gets out of the limo and he heads in with Tony, and Jericho's kind of playing it cool. He's not looking at Cody like, oh, who's this loser? He's not even worthy to challenge me. I'm gonna beat him. It's not gonna be anything. Cody gets the papers. He signs them right away. The papers are handed over to Jericho. He looks at them and he stands up, and they kept playing the angle oh, they're going to fight, or somebody's going to get powerbombed through the table and it's going to be a big fight breaking out, like WWE style contract signing. And he keeps, joking around, playing to the crowd. It was really good. And, Jericho eventually, he signs the contract, and he's still making fun of the crowd, and he's like, you guys are a bunch of hillbillies, and you can just boo me all you want. And, it was great. It was great Jericho. Every time we see him on TV, he's always saying something, doing something that's quote-worthy. And, like I said, we're getting behind Cody more and more. But in the same breath, Jericho's so great, you don't want to see him lose that championship. So it's really tough to say who they go with in this match of Full Gear, but I'm just enjoying it right now. I'm going to just live it in the moment and not think oh, where are they going to go from here? Up until this point, everything's good. So then they sign the contract. Then, Jericho extends his hand. Let's shake. Man to man. Show a little respect. Shakes his hand. Cody pulls him in real close. And he's talking, whispering something to him you can't really hear. boom, Sammy Guevara comes up on the screen. He's like, oh, hey, Cody, blah, blah, blah. Calls him out. And then the camera turns, and Jake Hager is beating up Dustin, and he's slamming him into the car. He slams his head into it. You see this big dent. And Cody just gets up, runs out of there to the limo. MJF, security, everybody goes out to help Dustin. And then Jericho goes out there and he starts lighting up a stogie, and he's like, yeah, you might want to take him to the hospital, man. Happy Halloween. It was just great. Like, even though Cody came off strong in his promo, Jericho came off kind of like, he did come off weak, but he came off, or in the contract signing rather, but he came off kind of like the snooty heel, like Cody's more popular than me, and I'm jealous, but I'm playing it off that I'm not. And then he gets the upper hand. His inner circle beats up Dustin, and it just really kept that fire going. If, the feud was already intense, now it's just going to an upper level. So that was really good. It was a really good contract signing, and it checked every box it needed to do. They signed the contract. There was no big fight, no brawl between the two contestants in the match, because you don't want to see these guys really touch until the match, because it just makes it that more special. Now, there was the brawl. You still did get that aspect, but it wasn't with the guys involved in the match. So that was good, and the brawl that did happen just intensified the feud, like I said. So this overall was just a really great contract signing and a great segment. Then we had a match, and then hold on, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here quick. F1. Alright, I might have missed it in the order, but then there was a Brandy Rhodes promo, which last week, when after Jamie Hayter's match, when she lost, she was getting interviewed, and Brandy just came up and kind of threw her to the ground and just like yelled at her and just gave her this, like, it was really weird. You almost didn't know what was going on, like, what was Brandy's deal, because she's normally like I said, her and Cody have been towing the line of heel and face until recently. Now they're pretty much face. But you didn't really know what was going on with Brandy. And then they showed this promo where she's like crying and her makeup's running and she's in this dark room and it's like creepy. I almost thought it was like a Halloween thing, but then it looks like she's summoning something. She has like a pentagram or something drawn on the floor, and they're playing this music and all this other stuff's going on. And then you just see Awesome Kong, images of her flash and stuff, and then it flashes back to Brandy. Looks like Brandy's in pain. And I know she tweeted something about like a broken heart or like a loss of love or something along those lines. So hopefully this is Awesome Kong coming back into the women's division. And then I think they're going to go with her and Brandy, like Brandy being her manager or something of the sort. And I think they're really going to go on a tear. I think that is, something that the women's division needs, kind of mix it up. But I think, when you introduce Awesome Kong and Brandy back in the women's division, we're seeing some stories built now. You have Brandy and Allie still have some unfinished business. I don't know if that would be the first kind of match for Awesome Kong. And you also have Britt Baker and Bea Priestley. And then, you can always go back to Riho, Nyla Rose, or like I said, if Riho has any past history with any of the other Joshis, maybe build off that. But I definitely think going into next week, you really need to start hammering home some of these women's storylines. Like, they're starting the feuds, but you really got to get the storylines on track. But it was a good promo or a video package, and it helped explain what was going on last week, which are like, all these shows have consistency. They never do a segment one week and follow up with it. Everything has a start, a middle, and an end. And that's what I really like. So then, like I said, that might not have happened after, I know it didn't happen after this Jericho package, but that was definitely in there. And then after the contract signing, then we go to the Hybrid 2, which Angelico and Jack Evans and Kip Sabian versus the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Which, this match, I almost forgot was even going to happen. I thought it was going to go into like a really long video package going over the tag team tournament. And then it was going to be, maybe then Ricky Morton And I feel bad for, I think it's Gibson. The I gotta look this up. This is bothering me. Ricky Morton and or the Rock and Roll Express. What am I think I was saying the Midnight Express. I'm sorry. The Rock and Roll Express. Robert Gibson. There we go. Sorry about that. Watching way too much wrestling all going on right now. I got all these different names flying around my head. So Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. So I thought the Rock and Roll Express would have came out now. And then that's when, they would have shown off the titles, and it would have been a long, maybe 5 to 6-7 minute video package going over the tournament, everything else, and then give these guys 30 minutes plus to just tell a story and a classic. Because I felt this match should have been at the pay-per-view, but then they were doing it on TV, which they're not having a pay-per-view every single month like WWE. So pay-per-views are a little few and far between. But the pay-per-view is only 2 weeks after, or not even 2 weeks after this episode. So I felt like you could have maybe added another round into the tournament and then did a bye week or something. Like there could have been, added more teams in the beginning. There could have definitely been a way to extend this until Full Gear. But we had this match with the Hybrid 2, like I said, Kip Sabian and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. And the Hybrid 2, you might not like them. You might think they're cocky or like they look like 2 walking Monster Energy drink cans. But, I mean, these guys are fantastic in the ring. I believe they said that they wrestled in AAA. And, like, these guys just have such good chemistry together. And obviously they're the team, but with the Young Bucks as well. Like, these guys in the ring, it's just magic. So I don't know if they wrestled together or against each other in AAA or in other promotions, but it's just a really good chemistry with these guys. And Kenny's, we always say it on this channel, he's probably the best wrestler in the world right now. So he can get a good match out of anybody. He could wrestle me and get a 3-star match probably. So, there's nothing you need to say about him. And Kip Sabian's no slouch either. He's good. Everything we've seen him in. His match with Hangman Page was pretty good. His match with Sammy Guevara was good. Just everything we've seen him in so far, he's good. And he's one of the guys that I think could benefit from being in these type of matches, show himself, and then maybe get a few wins on AEW Dark or something, and then hopefully if they introduce a mid-card title, he's definitely perfect for that. And if his character and stock grows, I mean, why not? Any of these guys I think could be the World Heavyweight Champion. They're all talented, and we've definitely seen Jack Evans. He wrestled in a singles competition on AEW Dark, so these guys definitely can do the singles thing. They don't need to stay stuck in the tag teams. But this match had a little bit of Halloween theme too. The Young Bucks came out like they did at Fyter Fest, dressed as Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter. And Kenny had a new opening styled after Undertale. And then he came out dressed as Sans. And I had no problem with that because they just came out dressed up. There was no gimmick. Like I said, this was just they wanted to have a little fun. They didn't want to be left out from the Halloween, festivities. So, to me, that didn't affect the match at all. I thought the little opening with Kenny, the Undertale style, was pretty cool. Never played Undertale, but I can appreciate, the video games and all that other stuff. I thought was really cool. And like I said, these guys were just all over the place. And like any match with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, the Elite and all that, it's not going to be a clean, tag every time. The ref can clearly have control. I mean, the match broke down pretty quick, and they were going at each other. And I will say, it was like I said, it was a good match, and everything with all these guys is just so fluid. You could watch these guys wrestle for an hour. But that's the problem. I was watching, and you get sucked into it, and then I look at the clock. Like, all right, it's 9:30. Like, all right, when's this match gonna end? It's gotta end soon. I lost track of time because this match is so good, but this isn't the tag match I want to see. So then eventually, the Young Bucks hit super kick party on Jack Evans, and then, well, triple super kick. I think Kenny hits him too. And then, V-trigger knee, one winged angel. Nobody's kicking out of that, man. 1, 2, not even Hulk Hogan. 1, 2, 3, done. And then after the match, the Young Bucks go to celebrate with some fans. Oh, because everybody had Rick and Morty masks. They were handing them out. Oh, random Rick, random Morty. Let's go up to them and party. Nope. It was Santana and Ortiz. They jump them, start beating them up, again to promote the match of Full Gear. So now we've seen Santana and Ortiz come out twice. At this point, I thought, okay, they're really trying to get these guys over. They're really trying to get this Santana and Ortiz proud and powerful. They're really trying to get them established as #1 heel tag team. They're really trying to get this Young Bucks match over at Full Gear. And now there's not even 25 minutes left in the show. And at this point, I'm not even worried about what is happening right now on television. I'm just worried about the tag team match. And after the show is over, now I feel justified in my worried. Because I always told myself, I'm not going to worry what AEW does because they haven't led me astray yet. And we get to this match. Oh, I lie. We didn't. I see I'm jumping the gun here. Then we had the Librarians, Peter Avalon and Leva Bates came out. So they come out, and Peter Avalon starts cutting up the crowd. And then you see Moxley come out. He's walking through the crowd, and, he's getting a big pop and all that. He comes into the ring. Avalon, kind of looks at him. Boom, paradigm shift, or dirty deeds, whatever you want to call it. Boom, done. He pretty much says that, that when he beats Kenny Omega, AEW just wants to act like this match doesn't count. And he said that's bullshit. And that, he's coming, he's going to bring it to Kenny. And, he called out Kenny and he said AEW's bullshit for unsanctioning this match. Like he said in the beginning, Tony is just trying to protect his boy, Tony Khan. So, it was a great promo. He came out there and he said exactly what we wanted him to say. And I tweeted this because I tweet live during the show. And I said that it's so funny if you watch Jon Moxley now and everything he's done since he debuted. And then you go back and watch Dean Ambrose. It's like day and night. He just has so much energy as Jon Moxley and so much passion and love for the business. You can just feel it in the energy he has in the ring and his promos because they feel real. And then you had Dean Ambrose, and he was so lifeless. And you just see it in his eyes. But here, he really, he really comes off as genuine, and you just feel happy for the guy that he's in a place where he can do what he wants. Obviously, storyline he's pissed, but in reality he probably couldn't be more happy, or couldn't be happier with where he's at. So like I said, it was all this stuff was happening in the show, and I thought there's no time for this tag team match. There's no time. What are they going to... I was actually thought, I'm like, maybe there's just not going to be a winner this week, or they're going to extend it, maybe go to 10-15. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So, they're getting ready for the match. You show Private Party. They're sitting at ringside. The Dark Order's watching backstage. And they go, after that, right into this match. And these guys are going up, 210 miles an hour. And I felt like they tried to get a half an hour match into 17 minutes, or however long it was, because it wasn't very long. They go back and forth. Kazarian and Pentagon start the match, but like I said, a lot of these tag team matches in AEW, they don't have, the order's not kept for long. So Phoenix is in, Sky's in, and there's all the normal spots you see. The pump handle driver, Phoenix runs the ropes, and he punt kicks, I believe it's Sky. He kicks Kazarian and rolls him up for a 2 count. That was a good spot. They did all the usual spots that you would see in the matches, but like I said, everything just felt rushed, and it definitely was. And the whole match, the crowd was split. And like I said, up until this point, the crowd knew who to boo and they knew who to cheer until this match. Because up until the tournament, the Lucha Bros were towing the line. They were the heel. They're kind of a heel team, but they're so over. And like the commentary said, the things they do in this match are not in this match. Just the things they do in the ring are so great that you want to cheer them. But because of the things they do, like they did to Christopher Daniels and the Young Bucks and all that, you want to boo them because they're bad guys. But at the same token, you want to cheer them because they're so entertaining. So, like I said, they're really trying to hammer home the fact that they were the heels and SCU was the face. But then with SCU, they were kind of portrayed as heels up until Christopher Daniels got attacked. Then they became baby faces. So they're kind of flipping the roles here, I feel, in this tournament. And the fans, like I said, they're all smart. They're all going to want to cheer the Lucha Bros, but they're also going to want to cheer SCU because of the storyline aspect. So it was really 50-50 split. They eventually take it to the outside. And, like I said, things break down and they're going all after each other. Everyone's striking everyone. There was this beautiful spot. Pentagon, he hit a springboard Canadian Destroyer on Kazarian. That was a close 2 count. Phoenix with a big cutter on Sky. 2 count. And then, like I said, goes to the outside. This was the end of the match. Sorry, I was at the earlier. This is, they go to the outside. And Pentagon, he power bombs Kazarian through the table. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, power bombs him. They're going to go in, do their spike pile driver. Done. Lucha Bros are the tag team champions. I feel like 90% of the people in the community, you ask them, and the fans, that's what would have been the ending. That's how you would have wrote this. Lucha Bros go out. And then we take it from here next week. Instead, you had Pentagon super kicked Scorpio Sky. Phoenix jumped up on his shoulders. Big splash. 2 count. Phoenix heads up to the top rope. Now they're going to do their finisher. Boom. Sky with an inside cradle. 1, 2, 3. Done. As soon as he got the inside cradle, my eyes immediately, boom, looked at the clock on my computer. It was 10 on the dot. I said, that's a wrap. And that's what it was. I was not pleased. I won't say I was angry. It wasn't like I watched a WWE. It wasn't like the Hell in the Cell ending. Seth Rollins and The Fiend. Nowhere close to that kind of emotion, anger, just frustration. But I am a little bit annoyed because mostly just the time aspect. Because they handed these guys the belts and they didn't even get a moment. You couldn't see these guys hug. I would have liked to seen maybe an on-site wherever Christopher Daniels was, maybe put him in a hospital bed, sell the injury, have him there watching the show, clapping for his guys, There was nothing. They got the belts, they held them up. Jim Ross and Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, blah, 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 talked you off the air, done. 10:01, you were off. And I didn't like that. This is your tag team champions. They gotta be a little more respect. They said tag teams, and like I said, I'm not trying to shit on AEW. I'm not gonna be like, you guys screwed up, like this is awful, blah blah blah. No. But the thing is, this is your first tag team champions. So, and you said you're gonna take tag teams seriously, but you didn't take them seriously here. You didn't take the right one seriously. We didn't need the proud and powerful. Rock and Roll Express. That whole segment I would have cut out. That would have saved you 4 or 5 minutes. Like I said, I would have cut that whole segment out. And the Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, Hybrid 2, and Kip Sabian match, that would have lost another 5 minutes. I feel you do that. You can still keep the John Moxley and the Librarian segment. But you save 5 minutes getting rid of the Rock and Roll Express segment at that point. Like I said, I would have had them come out at the end and hand the titles to the winner. But you didn't need that segment to get Proud and Powerful over if you were just going to do it at the end of the Hybrid 2 Young Bucks, the Elite and Hybrid 2 and Kip Sabian match. You could have just got Proud and Powerful. You could have just got them heel heat there. But, I mean, what are you going to do? Timing is still an issue, but I feel after, this is week 5 of television, and they have AEW Dark, which, I mean, that's just a YouTube show. Obviously, you can post, edit, and all these other things, but, that's a consistent hour and 1 minute, hour and 5 minutes, hour and 6 minutes. It just, everything kind of flows, and it's, you can get it right on there, but then on television, where it matters more, there seems to be all this issue with time. And if they can't get the timing right after Full Gear, I'll give them to Full Gear. But the first episode of Dynamite after that, I'm going to be a little more critical because you got to get this right. Because you really, really messed up in this tournament. They dropped the ball big time. So I texted Juan right when this was over. I'm like, dude, what's going on? And his words exactly were they dropped the ball big time. Because, not just because we're such fans of the Lucha Bros, but SCU, if they would have had a half an hour and you could have told this story better, 'cause I hate roll-ups. People say, oh, well, a roll-up will keep the Lucha Bros looking strong. The Lucha Bros will look strong if they lost. You don't need to beat somebody with a roll-up if you want to have them looking strong. You have them go out there, put on a hell of a match. Both these guys went for 30 minutes. I expect them to lose with the finisher because that's what it's going to take. It's not going to take a surprise roll-up. These guys are eating devastating moves and they're kicking out. And then a roll-up wins? And it wasn't like he was even that distracted. Like, yeah, he was a roll-up. He obviously came from behind and underneath, but, I just don't like roll-ups. But, or inside cradle, rather. But, same thing. So, that's how they went. And like I said, you need to get the time management better to let these guys, because, like I said, even though the SCU won and that wasn't the team I wanted, at least let these guys have their moment. And they didn't even get that. Now, they might do something. I'm sure they'll show something on social media today at some point, with them celebrating, maybe back in the locker room. Heck, they might have already even showed it, and I just didn't see it yet. But that's something you want to see on TV, because a lot of your viewers aren't going to be watching them on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or wherever else. You're watching them on television, and that's it. So if you don't show that, and if they show a replay again on Friday, a lot of people probably aren't going to watch that replay. Because it's a Friday night, you're out doing stuff, or you figured, I already watched the show, why should I watch it again? So they really dropped the ball with that. But overall, you got to say it was a decent show. It was probably, I don't know if I want to say it's their worst show, because it was still a great show by far. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, 7.5. It wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't spectacular. Like these last couple shows, these last 3 weeks, we got really, really solid shows, great championship matches. And they kind of just dropped, like we keep saying, it dropped the ball in this one. They had it. I don't even think the right teams were in the finals, to be honest. But I gave it a chance because the Christopher Daniels attack, the story was there. And then they didn't even let these guys execute it. But it was an overall a good show. If you didn't watch it, definitely try to catch it if they do a replay. And, let us know what you think in the comments. We're definitely going to be trying to get your guys' feedback more and engage more on the channel. We have a lot of stuff planned. A lot of things are really going in. We want this channel to grow. We're working on a schedule right now, try to get more consistent releases. And we have a lot of things coming, so please stay tuned. I'm going to have all the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, everything linked down below. And, stay subscribed for regular updates. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you next time.